Dear brothers and sisters, welcome back to our channel. Today, I want to share with you an extraordinary story, one that reveals a profound spiritual lesson through the life of one of the greatest saints of our church, Saint Catherine of Siena. Imagine this, a woman so deeply devoted to God, so committed to a life of prayer and service, that she became one of the few women in history to be declared a doctor of the church. Yet even she, in her holiness, was confronted by God about a hidden sin, a sin she didn't even realize she carried in her heart. What was it? The sin of judgment. Saint Catherine believed she had a gift, the ability to see the faults in others, especially priests, and to speak boldly about them. But one day, in a vision, God revealed a startling truth. This so-called gift was not from him, but was instead a trap laid by the devil to ensnare her in pride and condemnation. In today's video, we'll explore this pivotal moment in Saint Catherine's life. We'll see how God lovingly corrected her, how she came to recognize her hidden sin, and how she allowed his mercy to transform her heart. And perhaps, through her story, we'll uncover some hidden truths about our own hearts as well. Stay with me as we journey into this incredible account of grace, humility, and redemption, and discover how it can inspire us to reflect on our own lives and draw closer to God's infinite mercy. Let us now step into the world of Saint Catherine of Siena, a young woman deeply immersed in prayer and consumed by her love for God. Catherine had devoted her life to Christ, and through her intense spirituality, she often received mystical experiences. Yet even amidst her holiness, she found herself ensnared in a struggle she did not immediately recognize, one that God, in his infinite mercy, lovingly revealed to her. In one of her visions, Catherine encountered God in a moment of profound clarity. He spoke to her not with anger or condemnation, but with a tender truth that pierced her heart. Catherine had prided herself on her keen ability to notice the faults of others, particularly those of priests. She believed this insight was a gift, a tool for helping others grow closer to God. But then the truth was unveiled. God revealed that this gift of hers did not come from him at all. It was, in fact, a trap set by the devil. The enemy had subtly lured her into a dangerous habit of judgment, planting seeds of pride under the guise of righteousness. Catherine had been unknowingly falling into the sin of condemning others, even as she believed she was serving God's will. Imagine her shock, her humility, as she realized that the insights she held so firmly were not from the Holy Spirit, but from a deceiver intent on twisting her intentions. God showed her how this sin was hidden deep within her heart, disguised as zeal for the truth. He revealed that true discernment and love never lead to condemnation, but always to mercy and compassion. In her humility, Catherine confessed this hidden sickness of the soul, admitting her blindness. She said, "You gave me medicine against a hidden sickness I had not recognized, by teaching me that I can never sit in judgment on any person." These words echo the pain of a soul laid bare before God, and the beauty of his healing grace working to restore her. Catherine's encounter with this hidden sin reminds us of how easily we, too, can fall into the devil's traps. How often do we look at others with critical eyes, thinking we know their hearts, believing we are helping, only to realize we are stepping into judgment? As we continue St. Catherine's story, let us reflect deeply on the cunning nature of the devil and how he seeks to entangle even the holiest among us in his traps. In Catherine's case, the enemy worked subtly, disguising his lies as something righteous, something noble. God revealed to Catherine that the insights she thought were gifts, the ability to see others' weaknesses and shortcomings, were actually tools the devil used to inspire judgment in her heart. The enemy allowed her to notice the faults of others, not to encourage prayer or compassion, but to lead her into a sense of superiority where her focus shifted from mercy to condemnation. This, brothers and sisters, is one of the devil's most insidious traps. He does not always come to us with blatant temptations or overt sin. Instead, he often preys on our good intentions, twisting them ever so slightly until we lose sight of God's true will. In Catherine's case, the devil sought to make her feel righteous in her judgments, but in reality, her heart was being led astray from the path of humility and mercy. The impact of this trap was profound. By focusing on the faults of others, Catherine became blind to her own need for God's mercy. She risked building a wall between herself and those she judged, and perhaps even between herself and God. Judgment, after all, is not ours to wield. It belongs to God alone, but the devil's work doesn't end with judgment. Once we begin to see ourselves as arbiters of others' faults, pride takes root. We start to believe that we are in a position to condemn rather than to understand. Catherine herself admitted this when she said, "Blind and weak as I was from this sickness, I often judged others under the pretext of working for your honor and their salvation. This blindness can infect all of us. When we dwell on the failings of others, we lose sight of our own sins and our dependence on God's grace. And when we fail to see ourselves clearly, we cannot truly grow in holiness." Yet God did not leave Catherine in this state. He lovingly revealed her error, not to shame her, but to heal her. He invited her to step away from the devil's trap and into the light of his mercy. This moment in Catherine's life is a reminder for us all. How often do we fall into this same trap? How often do we criticize, condemn, or judge others, thinking we are somehow justified? And in doing so, how often do we miss the opportunity to extend God's mercy to them and to ourselves? As we move forward, we will explore how Saint Catherine found healing and transformation through God's grace, and how this lesson can inspire us to reflect on our own hearts and turn back to His infinite love. Dear brothers and sisters, imagine for a moment the humility it takes to face a truth so piercing, yet so filled with God's mercy. Saint Catherine of Siena, once blinded by judgment, now stood in the light of divine grace, ready to allow God to transform her heart. But how did she overcome this hidden sin? How did she, and how can we, step out of the devil's trap and into the embrace of God's mercy? The first step for Catherine was acknowledging her weakness. When God revealed her hidden sin, she didn't defend herself or justify her actions. Instead, she humbly confessed, "You gave me medicine against a hidden sickness I had not recognized." These words speak volumes. Catherine realized that only God could provide the remedy for her spiritual blindness. She admitted her dependence on His grace, a grace that is available to all of us when we turn to Him with contrite hearts. Catherine learned an invaluable lesson about mercy, that true mercy begins with humility. She began to see that the faults she noticed in others were not an invitation to judge, but an opportunity to extend compassion. This transformation shifted her perspective entirely. Rather than condemning others for their weaknesses, she now prayed for them, recognizing her own frailty and the mercy she herself needed daily. One of the most profound truths she discovered was this: today it is your turn. Tomorrow it will be mine. What humility and wisdom are contained in these words! Catherine came to understand that every person's struggles are a reflection of our shared human condition. None of us is exempt from sin. None of us is beyond the reach of temptation. By embracing this truth, she learned to see others not as objects of judgment but as fellow travelers on the path to God. Catherine also came to recognize that mercy flows from experiencing God's patience with our own faults. The more she reflected on how tenderly God had dealt with her, the more her heart softened toward others. This is a truth that speaks directly to us. When we are deeply aware of how much we depend on God's forgiveness, we become more willing to offer that same forgiveness to those around us. In practical terms, Catherine's transformation offers us a path we can follow by doing these three things. First, recognize your own sinfulness. Spend time in prayer and examination of conscience, asking God to reveal the hidden areas of your heart. Second, ask for God's grace. Like Catherine, admit your dependence on His mercy and invite Him to heal you. And third, replace judgment with compassion. When you notice someone's faults, pause. Instead of criticizing, say a prayer for them and remember your own need for God's grace. The journey of overcoming hidden sin is not easy, but it is deeply rewarding. It draws us closer to God and helps us reflect His love more clearly in our lives. Catherine's story reminds us that even our failures can become pathways to grace when we surrender them to the Lord. As we reflect on the life of Saint Catherine of Siena and her powerful vision, we're reminded of a profound truth. God's mercy is infinite, and His love has the power to transform even our deepest hidden sins. Catherine's story teaches us that true holiness begins with humility, with recognizing our own need for God's grace, and with extending that same mercy to others. So, brothers and sisters, let us ask ourselves, are we willing to let God reveal the hidden areas of our hearts? Can we surrender our judgments and instead embrace compassion and prayer for those around us? If this story inspired you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more reflections on the lives of saints, spiritual lessons, and ways to grow in faith. Check out our other videos to continue deepening your relationship with God. Thank you for being here with us today, and as always, see you in our next video.